I don't know about you, but I am so sick and tired of listening to Danielle Smith spread her horse manure about all the wonderful benefits that would come along with expanding the Alberta oil and gas economy. She's at it day in and day out. If it's not on Twitter, it's on a press conference. If it's not on a press conference, it's in the media, or she's going out in the community, wherever it's a constant refrain. She is basically, no, she's not basically, she is the lapdog of the oil and gas industry. She was an oil and gas lobbyist, a registered lobbyist from 2019 to 2022 when she became premier. All she's doing is repeating over and over again the industry's talking points. But this tweet really, really got up my nose. It's from September 4th, so 2 days ago. Let me read at least part of it to you. Here it is. Canada has become economically weak and vulnerable to the whims of our largest export market. Yes, this is the same United States where she's been down to, basically begging Donald Trump on one knee not to put a tariff on Alberta oil and gas. I mean, who's weak and vulnerable here? Then she goes on to say, and Ottawa continues to dither. It hasn't brought in a pipeline, uh, hasn't declared it a project of national interest yet. Parliament could do three things today that would immediately turn our economy around, create hundreds of thousands of jobs, and generate trillions in wealth for Canadians without spending a single tax dollar. This is utter nonsense. Don't believe a word of it. Hundreds of thousands of jobs. There are only in the Alberta oil and gas industry about 150,000 full-time workers. And that's down from 220,000, 215,000 10 years ago. So we're going to create somehow with magically by, uh, building a pipeline and turning over all of these regulations, the oil and gas emissions cap, the Environmental Impact Assessment Act, eliminate the tanker ban off the British Columbia Northern Coast. That somehow is going to create trillions of dollars. This is ridiculous. It it boggles the mind. I mean, what is she smoking? Then she goes on to say the national economic self-sabotage has to stop. Canadians, yada, yada, yada. You can read it for yourself. Here's the problem. Take a look at this graph. I created this graph and the top line is OPEC's oil demand modeling out to 2050. In 2 years ago, they were modeling 117 million barrels a day, up from 102 by 2050. And then last year, they increased it to 120 million barrels a day, and now it's 120. They keep increasing it. Next is the STEP scenario from the International Energy Agency, and it shows, about 102 down to 97, 90, 95 million barrels a day over the next 25 years. That's considered kind of the status quo case. And no economist that I interview believes that has a hope. And I've actually checked the oil demand modeling from Chinese sources. They consume 17.4 million barrels a day. Where do they think their oil demand is going to be in 2050? Well, a drop of 10 to 12 million barrels a day all by themselves. And never mind the electrification of Europe, transportation in Europe, electrification in other Asian countries. There is even the steps scenario is highly, highly unlikely. The one that is most likely, in my opinion, based on the trends we've got today, and assuming that they're going to accelerate, is the APS scenario of the IEA. Look where that is, 55 million barrels a day by 2050. It's just a little over half. It's maybe 55% of what we're doing today. Here's my problem. During a time of rapid economic change, technological change, rapid changes in the global energy system, we have global economy is basically electrifying, both the supply side and the demand side. You've heard me say this many times. Taking the most bullish case, and building your economic policy around it and demanding that the federal government give you what you want, despite the fact that you're hallucinating, that you're delusional, and that you keep saying that the only what does she say? The only forecaster with any credibility shows rapid growth, more growth out to 2050. Completely untrue. I did a video 2, 3 months back where I found three that agree with her: OPEC, ExxonMobil, and a U.S. Their Energy Information Administration, which is they're the biggest oil producer in the world. So all three of them are self-interested. 13 other agencies, the IEA, and then there's Rystad and S&P Global and Bloomberg NEF and lots of other ones that think that oil demand is going to peak in 2030. So Danielle Smith is living on another planet. And she's hoping, and frankly, she's been very successful so far. I mean, she's done a very good job of communicating. She got the PR machine that's constantly cranking this out. And she's got Prime Minister Mark Carney apparently, convinced that there needs to be a pipeline built at Kitimat or Prince Rupert. So it's working. It should not be working. It's working because we're paying attention, because my colleagues in the media refuse to ask her the hard questions and put her on the spot. So there needs to be a pushback, because if Canada builds a pipeline to Kitimat or Prince Rupert, I will bet money on it that it will become a stranded asset in the not too distant future. And we will wind up subsidizing its construction. We will wind up paying for its reclamation. This is something that Danielle Smith has not fixed. And she understands, I think she understands a problem. I'm not sure she understands how big the problem is of unfunded environmental liabilities from the Alberta oil and gas industry. A 2018 preliminary estimate from the Alberta Energy Regulator set it at $260 billion. And it's gone up since then. So I just used the figure $300 billion. I think that's, when you get to be those kind of numbers, there's no precision involved. So we're being asked to take a leap of faith on this. We're asked to ignore the environmental regulations. We're asked to ignore the oil sands industry's sky high emissions intensity per barrel. 3 times, I think it's about 3 times the global average. All of that, and likely declining demand in Asia, likely declining demand in Europe. I mean, this makes no sense whatsoever. So I'm really tired of this. And I would encourage you, if you live in Alberta, write a letter to your MLA. You can send an email if you want, or phone there, but letters really matter. Because when the letter comes into the office, they think somebody took the time to write this. They're really angry. And that has 10 times the weight of a phone call or an email. Write a letter to your MLA, write a letter to your member of parliament, and you can find evidence for your argument on our Energy Media YouTube channel. Lots of videos and lots of interviews with experts and lots of data. You can go there and you can use that if you want to make some links or whatever you want to do. But protest this. There should be, when we looking at doing projects of national interest, it should not be assumed. It should not be assumed that it's self-evident that those projects are economic and that they will pay for themselves and they will clean up after themselves. It's not self-evident to me, because the evidence in Alberta shows exactly the opposite. This is an industry, the oil and gas industry, and I guess the pipeline industry, is an industry that is irresponsible, and it has shrugged its environmental obligations, its cleanup obligations, for decades and decades and decades. It's called liability dumping. Grist for another video someday and in the very near future. So to sum up, Premier Danielle Smith has got her PR machine, her propaganda machine going at full volume, and there's nobody pushing back, maybe us, demanding accountability, demanding an assessment of the risk, looking for a business case. Show me the math. How can we be, as a country, how can we be considering major infrastructure projects when we can't even be certain that our public servants, which is basically what an elected official is, are looking after the public interest, and instead they're looking after an industry's interest? How can we do that?